She was a watchmaker's daughter from the Netherlands. She never married. She never went to seminary. She had no mission board, no sending organization, and no plan of her own. What she had was a house with a hidden room, a God she trusted completely, and a message that the darkest hell could not silence. Cornelia ten Boom was born on April 15, 1892, in the city of Haarlem in the Netherlands. Her father, Casper ten Boom, was a watchmaker and a man of deep faith. He raised Betsy, Willem, Nolly, and Corrie in a narrow house above the shop in Haarlem they called the Cayce. The household was warm, crowded, and devout. They gathered daily around an oval dining table, and the whole family treated Jesus as a member of it. At 5 years old, Corrie opened the door of her heart to Christ. She grew up, apprenticed in the watch shop, and in time became the first licensed woman watchmaker in the Netherlands. She led Bible clubs for children and young people, taught Sunday school, and cared for the children of missionaries serving abroad. It was a quiet, faithful, ordinary life. And then the Nazis came. In May 1940, Germany invaded the Netherlands. Not long after, a Jewish furrier named Weil, their neighbor, stood frozen on the street while German soldiers tore through his shop. Corrie brought him inside. Then, the ten Boom family stepped in to help, coordinating with Corrie's brother Willem to safely smuggle Mr. Weil out of the city to a secure location in Hilversum. 2 years later, a Jewish woman appeared at the door of the Cayce, telling the ten Booms she had heard they had helped their Jewish neighbors. Her husband had been arrested, her son had gone into hiding, and she was too afraid to return home. Casper ten Boom immediately invited her in, saying, "In this household, God's people are always welcome." It was the beginning of a new life for the entire family. The Cayce and its secret room became the nerve center of a resistance network spreading across Haarlem and deep into the countryside. Hundreds of refugees passed through its doors on their way to safety. At any given time, the ten Booms housed 5 or 6 permanent fugitives, both Jews evading the security service and fighters from the Dutch underground. By the war's end, the family was credited with saving an estimated 800 lives. In February 1944, when Corrie was 52 years old, the Gestapo raided the house and the family was arrested. The 4 Jews and 2 Dutch resistance fighters, hidden behind the false wall in Corrie's bedroom, were never found, but the 10 Booms were sent to the camps. Casper ten Boom died 10 days later in Scheveningen prison. He was 84 years old. 4 months later, Corrie and her sister Betsy were transferred to Ravensbrück concentration camp in Germany. It was one of the most brutal camps in the Nazi system, built specifically for women. Inside the barracks, something unexpected happened. They managed to smuggle a Bible into Ravensbrück. The guards refused to enter their quarters due to a lice infestation, allowing the 2 sisters to share the light of Jesus with the women around them in that place of darkness. The horror of the camp became the pulpit. Her sister grew weaker by the month, but even as her body failed, her spirit did not. Before she died, she told Corrie,
"We must tell people how good God is. After the war, we must go around telling people. No one will be able to say that they have suffered worse than us. We can tell them how wonderful God is and how His love will fill our lives if only we will give up our hatred and bitterness."
Betsy ten Boom died on December 16, 1944. She was 59 years old. Days after Betsy's death, Corrie was released. She later learned that her release had been the result of a clerical error. Shortly after her discharge, all of the other women her age held at Ravensbrück were executed. She walked out of the gates of the camp with nothing but her life, her Bible, and the vision her sister had left her. She intended to honor it. Within months of her release, she opened a home for survivors to come and heal, exactly what Betsy had seen. There she taught that wholeness required forgiveness, a lesson she would soon have to live out herself. In 1947, while speaking at a church in Munich, Corrie came face to face with one of her former tormentors from Ravensbrück. He approached her after the service, hand extended, telling her what a fine message she had given. He said he had become a Christian since the war and asked for her forgiveness. She could not move. She recognized him. She remembered the leather crop swinging from his belt. She remembered Betsy. She wrote later about what happened in that moment.
I stood there, I whose sins had again and again been forgiven and could not forgive. I stood there with the coldness clutching my heart. But forgiveness is not an emotion, I knew that. Forgiveness is an act of the will, and the will can function regardless of the temperature of the heart.
She reached out her hand, and in her own account, a current seemed to pass through her arm and into his, and she found she could say the words and mean them. That encounter became the center of everything she taught for the rest of her life. After the war, Corrie became what she called a tramp for the Lord and wrote a book by the same name in 1974. She traveled the world twice over, sharing the love of Jesus and the message of forgiveness in 60 countries on every continent. Many times, she did not know where she would unpack her bags or how she would pay for her passage, but God, she said, always met her needs. In 1971, she published The Hiding Place, the story of her family's resistance and her years in Ravensbrück. It reached millions. The house on Barthel-Jorisstraat still stands today as a museum, open to visitors who want to see the room behind the false wall. She kept traveling well into her 80s. She eventually retired from international evangelism and moved to California, where she continued to speak at local churches until a stroke left her unable to speak. Corrie ten Boom died on April 15, 1983, on her 91st birthday. For those who knew her faith, the date felt like one final signature from the God she had served without reservation. She had once written,
Although the threads of my life have often seemed knotted, I know, by faith, that on the other side of the embroidery there is a crown.
She had seen the knots up close. A father dead in prison, a sister dead in a camp, years behind wire, stripped of everything. And yet she spent the next 4 decades telling anyone who would listen that the God of the hiding place was also the God of every dark place they had ever known. She had been a prisoner, a fugitive, an exile, and a tramp. But every title the world gave her pointed somewhere it did not intend, straight to the God who had kept her, used her, and refused to let the darkness have the last word. She lived believing there was a beautiful design on the other side of her life's tangled embroidery. When she finally stepped across the threshold, her faith became sight, and she received her crown.